Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Swap Connection with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. And let's move on from X-Men and the Avengers to Miscellaneous Marvel. We'll start things off with Strikeforce, number 5. Where we left off, Strikeforce was holed up in a safe house of Doctor Doom's, and we're kind of just spend the night so that the sorcerers can, so that Wiccan and Damien Hellstrom can recharge their magics and they can teleport home. However, something odd happened to Monica. So the issue begins in Detroit with Blade contacting Black Panther and basically saying, "Hey, look, here's what I can tell you about what's going on, but I need to keep this. The circle needs to be kept as small as possible, so you're not getting a lot of details." And as he finishes his little chat with Black Panther, well, Monica has another one of her energy seizures. She's found a means of she also found a means of monitoring everything, which allows her to which gives us some hard science on whatever's going on. It's explained as being a cross between a heart monitor and a photon counter. And Winter Soldier gets the initial idea that she's feeling the energy of people dying, and but she explains that she's kind of feeling it go the other way. However, then it turns out that the super hacker Ghost, was listening in and has stolen her data. So the rest of the team, aside from Wiccan and Hellstrom, go after him. Using decoys, and yeah, it's kind of a thing. Meanwhile, Wiccan and Hellstrom have a chat. One about the fact that Hellstrom can totally wake the Prince Ophidian up whenever he wants, but he's just not doing so. And then there's the fact that no one's asked Hellstrom about how he got involved with them. So we find out. They came to him. And we can suggest maybe they could work together to get the Verdaya home. Ghost, however, gets away basically by explaining that by threatening to give the Avengers surveillance footage as to what Strikeforce has been doing. So they let him go for the moment, but they've potentially figured out where he is. A nearly abandoned hospital running on a skeleton crew. So the team sneaks in portions with Winter Soldier and Spider-Woman going on point. However, when they arrive, Monica realizes that generator's out, so Spectrum realizes that the generator's down. So she goes to take care of that, restart machines, and then one of the life energy of a person dying comes up. Spectrum tries to convince him to let her, put the energy back where it was, but Blade especially is like, that's not a good idea. And then we find out who the doctor running the whole show is. None other than Dr. Carla Selfin, aka longtime member of the Masters of Evil and founding Thunderbolt, Moonstone. Also, total crazy person. Takes her name from the Kree gem that gives her powers. So, yeah, a bit of a fight breaks out. And then, however, turns out that, Spectrum succeeded. But nothing comes back from the dead unchanged. And that is where the issue ends. Moving on, we've got Ghost Rider number 4. Where we left off, Danny Ketch had been rescued from the East River by the new caretaker. Johnny Blaze was making his way to Las Vegas. And in the incoming one-shot, turns out that he was the only one heading to Vegas, and a lot of other demons were there as well, or were heading there as well, all in the hopes of freeing Mephisto from his imprisonment in Vegas. And it should also be mentioned that Lilith, the mother of demons, is plotting a takeover of the Throne of Hell. Especially with Blaze being absent. So we begin at the caretaker's library in Brooklyn, and she's sending she's going to send Danny to Limbo to get necrosis, which is something that could potentially stop Johnny. In Vegas, Ghost Rider and Johnny and Wong fend off the various demons. And in fact, Johnny's kind of surprised at how many there are. He didn't realize this many had gotten loose. However, Johnny ends up having to fight Wong, because Wong's not going to let him go see Mephisto either. However, Johnny does manage to take down Wong with the penance stare because, no one is without sin. So he makes his way up, rips the door off of Mephisto's cell, and then drags Mephisto out. Back in Limbo, Danny makes his way to the ruler of Limbo, Belasco, who then he kind of says, okay, this is what's going on. I need your help. And Belasco says, if you want necrosis, you'll have to fight for it. And Johnny's able to win, but only just. However, he then gets turned into basically the Limbo version of a spirit of a Ghost Rider. The spirit of corruption. And that is where the issue ends. With next up being at least a spiritual follow-up to the 90s one-shot Punisher, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, Parts of Darkness. Next up, we've got Morbius, number 3. Where we left off, turns out that Morbius' old acquaintance Elizabeth was working with the Melter, And Morbius went to a blood bank to at least get his hands on blood to drink. However, the guards weren't staying unconscious, and as he was about to feed on one of them, Spider-Man arrived. So we open with Elizabeth and the Melter talking. The Melter, however, is very interested in the in Morbius's work, and explain, kind of, hey, money's great and all, but power is even better. And so Elizabeth and the Melter and their partnership. Spider-Man is able to. Spider-Man talks to Morbius, and notices there's some changes happening with him. Manages to get the guard away from Morbius, but however, Morbius does manage to take a bite out of Spider-Man and drink some of Spidey's blood, which actually does seem to do a little bit of, which does seem to help, as it usually does in most circumstances. Then, so they agree to work together with a few conditions that no more body kill. Period. End of discussion. That's done. And two, when they've got everything taken care of and figured out, Morbius answers what he did. So they go to Kurt Connor's summer house on Long Island and start working. We also kind of get what Morbius has been up to. He had been helping a small community that was looking to be gentrified. It was about to be gentrified. Toppled a bunch of developments, but the developments meant any hope of improving quality of life was in that area was also gone, and so he left. They look and Spidey takes a look at a blood sample of Morbius's and realizes, okay, first case of, I'm not a hematologist, but even I know that's not how blood samples are supposed to look. And so Morbius further appeals to Spider-Man, and he agrees to offer up some blood, and so a new serum is created, and it at least gets them to where he was before this most recent botched serum. While he insists they continue working into the night, Spider-Man's like, whoa, hey, look, let's get some rest, then we can work on it some more, If we don't rest, we're not going to get thinking clearly. Or before a decision can be made, a bomb is thrown through the window, and Elizabeth comes in, taking down both Spider-Man and Morbius, and the issue ends with her standing over Morbius with a hammer in one hand and a stake in the other, presumably ready to put the stake through Morbius's heart. That is where the issue ends. Moving on, we've got Star number 1. Now, some of you might remember Star from was she in? No, she was okay. From the not the current Captain Marvel story arc, but the story arc that completed just before the current one. She was a reporter who ended up getting powers thanks to Doctor Minerva. Great job there, Doc. And she was basically trying to paint Carol Danvers as poor light as possible, and show she had a device which put Carol's powers in a fluctuation, so forth. And at the end of the story, Captain Marvel ripped it out of Star's chest. However, the very end showed that Star was not as was still not powerless, as the Reality Stone had come to her. So we begin with a recap. Apparently, it's a common nightmare of Star's now. When, as she puts it, Captain Marvel tried to kill her. So she goes to the bar with no name in Astoria. We get there's some familiar faces and some background shots. Spot is there. White Rabbit is clearly there. Lady Bullseye. Either Orb or Mysterio are not. It's not very clear. I think it's supposed to be Orb. Also Titania. And so Star and Titania duke it out, and Titania clearly wins after punching Star out of the friggin' building. However, then Star gets knocked upside the head by another denizen from the bar, who reveals himself when she wakes up to be Loki. Because, well, Loki doesn't think that Star should have the stone, mainly because, well, Star isn't him, so therefore he should have the stone. They argue about it a bit. And seemingly she kills Loki. Of course, God of Mischief, God of Lies, titles. Of course, Loki figures that the treatment of his illusion was just plain rude. Meanwhile, in the East Village, the young woman who was watching things transpire shows up and explains that she's found an Infinity Stone. Meanwhile, Alias Investigations, Star shows up to hire Jessica. And she starts utilizing the Reality Stone to get Jessica to help. But, well, Jessica's still able to focus on things that are almost as important as her newfound desire to help Star. Things like beating Star within an inch of her life, for an example, or kicking Star lots of times in the face. She gets started on. And then, however, their fight is interrupted, however, by the Scarlet Witch. Who was a mysterious figure watching her. That's where the issue ends. Be interesting to see where this series goes. I figured that Marvel had some plan outside of simply the Captain Marvel story for Star, so We'll see where that. Presumably, though, now we know there's an Infinity Stone involved with her. Would not be surprised in the slightest if the bearer of the Time Stone, who was listed, Hector Batista, wouldn't surprise me if Star and him get together and we end up with a new Infinity Watch built of all new characters. But we'll see where all this goes. Next up, we've got Conan, Serpent War, number 3. Where we left off, Conan the Barbarian and Dark Agnes were in the Hyborian Age dealing with the followers of Set, while Moon Knight and Solomon Kane were in the 16th century dealing with the followers of Set. And their guide, a man by the name of James Allison, was seemed to be working with someone else, another malevolent entity, though doing so unknowingly. So we begin in the Hyborian Age. Conan and Dark Agnes attack a caravan of Set worshippers, killing most of the worshippers, destroying that which they're carrying, which, by the way, it's urns that have the hearts of the higher-ups in the cult. So Conan sets the wagon on fire, and we see it at a temple to Set, all of the worshippers falling over dead. And so they make their way to a Stygian temple, finding more and more snake spawns treasures. In the 16th century, Solomon Kane and Moon Knight, however, are working together as well. And it turns out that Kane and Moon Knight are now just at the right point at the right time, or near basically the same point in different times as Conan and Agnes, as both duos are sent to take and destroy a bracelet, which has a portion of Set's power in it. And Conan and Agnes start wading through the cultists, while Moon Knight and Kane deal with the cultists their own ways. However, James Allison finally realizes that the creature he's been dealing with, and used him to build the kingdom of the Wyrm. And then Khonshu speaks to Moon Knight, telling him not to destroy the bracelet, but rather place it on his wrist. And so he does. And the rotting head, as well as the mask that communicated with Dark Agnes in the first issue, both crumble to dust. Moon Knight arrives in a realm of obelisks and pyramids, assuming initially he's in a dream, only to discover a giant Khonshu fighting a giant serpent, while Conan fights smaller ones. The serpent says to him, "Welcome to the true war." And that is where the issue ends. Next up, we've got Marvel's X, number 1. So, some of you may recall how last year I covered the the annotated Marvel's re-release. Well, Marvel's X is a prologue of sorts to the next project that Alex Ross did for Marvel after Marvel's Earth X. The story of Earth X is that basically the world has undergone Terrigenesis. Pretty much everyone's got powers now. So, what does that mean for, if everyone's got powers, well, what does that mean for the people who had powers before everyone did, There's more to it than that as well, but the end of the world is coming. Yeah. It's really great, and I still need to get the latter portion of it. Anywho, Marvel's X number 1 begins with a young boy named David playing with his paper doll, with a kind of paper doll thing with Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Captain America, while the news is on discussing the mysterious virus that's popped up, which is being blamed on mutant kind because, mutants. Referred to largely as simply the scabbing. Some will certainly think, however, that scabbing that's appearing on people is actually the formation of a chrysalis of some sort. And so weeks later, things have gone on. David is preparing food for his sister and for his grandmother. He brings his grandmother food. She's scabbing up, and she tells him that, his parents weren't killed because of the virus. His parents were killed because of his parents were killed by people, mutated or not. It makes no difference. When they hear a strange noise from the roof, but however, well, they need more food, so David goes out to the town to get some food. There's a pantry that's still open of sorts. David gets some food and from the woman who ran it, who's now anthropomorphized tree. Think Groot, but able to speak normally. As David arrives home, he hears a noise, runs upstairs, and discovers that his sister has come out of the transformation, or come out of the cocoon. So she flies up out of the house, and David boards it up her room, and then says goodbye to his grandmother who died while that was going on. Takes some supplies and hits the road, but he did forget his Green Goblin mask. However, he's saved from. He runs into some of the mutated people, but they have power. He doesn't, so he's a target. And he's saved by a truck driver named John, who also happens to be carrying a shotgun too. And John has got tattoos on his arms of flames, making it pretty clear that it's Johnny Blaze. But ends with them heading closer to New York, though. he's not really sure there are any heroes left. And that's where the issue ends. We got some sketches of mutates by, as well as some sketches of David, John, and so on and so forth. So far, it's quite an interesting book. All right, that's it for this portion of the roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Ron Ross Fox signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.